I earned my degree online at Arizona State University. I chose to get my degree at ASU because I knew that I'd get a quality education, they were recognized for excellence, and that I would be prepared for the workforce upon graduating. To be associated with ASU, both as a student and alum, it makes me extremely proud, and having experienced the program, I know now that I'm set up for success. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.
Tonight on the Worldview Report, drama unfolds at Health and Human Services as Secretary RFK Jr. fires 2 top aides who failed to notify him of a major policy change involving COVID injections while he was on vacation. 2 more passenger jets narrowly avoid catastrophic accidents in midair. Islamists worldwide are targeting Christians and Jews for persecution as it continues to roll globally. And Tulsi Gabbard releases long classified documents related to the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. All these stories and more as the Worldview Report begins right now.
This is Worldview Report with host Brandon House. Whether it is news from the nation's capital or your state capital, from the classroom to the boardroom, from national security to national and local news that impacts you and your family, Worldview Report is your trusted source for vital and uncensored news. And now, here is Brandon House.
Good evening and welcome to the Worldview Report. I'm Brandon House. Leading up tonight, Attorney General Pam Bondi revealed today, Tuesday, that the Department of Justice will engage with Ghislaine Maxwell, a convicted associate of Jeffrey Epstein, who is currently serving a 20-year prison sentence for her involvement in sexually exploiting and reportedly abusing multiple underage girls over more than a decade. Bondi stated, quote, "This Department of Justice does not shy away from uncomfortable truths, nor from the responsibility to pursue justice wherever the facts may lead," end quote. She referenced a joint statement issued by the DOJ and FBI on July 6, which concluded that a comprehensive review of the FBI's Epstein case files revealed no evidence warranting investigations into uncharged third parties. Bondi underscored that President Trump has directed the release of all credible evidence related to the case. She added that if Maxwell possesses information regarding crimes committed against victims, the FBI and DOJ are prepared to listen. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche has already contacted Maxwell's legal team to gauge her interest in speaking with prosecutors, with a meeting expected in the near future. Blanche stated, quote, "For the first time, the Department of Justice is reaching out to Ghislaine Maxwell to ask, 'What do you know?'" End quote. Officials in the Trump administration are attempting to do some damage control over the Food and Drug Administration that approved an updated mRNA COVID shot for Americans as young as 6 months old. That happened earlier this month. The vaccine is expected to roll out this fall or winter. This approval, it runs counter to previous statements by Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and FDA Commissioner Dr. Marty Makary, who announced in May that they were pulling the COVID vaccines from the current CDC childhood vaccination schedule. In a report Monday, the wine press noted that since that announcement, the COVID vaccines were never removed from the CDC vaccine schedule, and they are still on the list. The FDA's latest approval for Moderna's updated shot for children and newborns only furthers this contradiction. Well, now it's being reported that the FDA and Commissioner Makary did not inform Secretary Kennedy or get his approval because he was on vacation. CNN reported on Monday that RFK Jr. fired 2 of his top aides in response to their failing to consult him on the Moderna approval. According to a report by independent journalist John Fleetwood, on July 20th, Mahapak cited Dr. Robert Malone, now serving on the newly restructured ACIP vaccine panel, as confirming that neither Kennedy nor his deputy chief of staff, Stephanie Spears, were informed of the FDA's decision regarding Moderna, and that a major HHS leadership purge unfolded upon their return. Citing insider knowledge, Dr. Malone said, quote, "The unfortunate facts are that this decision was made public when both the Secretary of HHS and his trusted Deputy Chief of Staff, Stephanie Spears, were on vacation. Neither Secretary, HHS, nor his Deputy Chief of Staff were briefed or read in on this decision," end quote. The move apparently set off a chain reaction. According to Malone, shortly after Kennedy and Spears returned, quote, "A major reorganization of HHS leadership occurred," end quote. Heather Flick Mellison, Kennedy's chief of staff, and Hannah Anderson, who's deputy chief of staff for policy, have both been sent packing. According to Fleetwood's report, Anderson was, quote, "walked off the premises and was so upset that she crashed her car into the secretary's government-provided vehicle," end quote. A terrifying incident was captured on video when a packed Delta Airlines flight was forced to return to Los Angeles International Airport due to an apparent engine fire just moments after takeoff. On Friday, Delta Flight 446 took off from LAX en route to Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. However, shortly after departure, the aircraft encountered a serious engine issue that led to an emergency landing. In a stunning video captured by LA Flights on YouTube, the flames, they're visible and can be seen coming from the left engine of the Boeing 767-400. Shocking fire, well, it sent shockwaves through passengers and viewers alike. As the aircraft made its way back to LAX, emergency response vehicles surrounded the plane on the tarmac, ready to take action as soon as the plane had landed. Watch this.
Oh, look at that! Whoa! Was that a compressor stall? What's going on? Whoa! Whoa, whoa, hang on. That's not good. That's not good, guys. I'm turning up ATC, I don't hear anything. Whoa! I'm guessing compressor stall, but that's speculation. Oh my gosh. And thankfully the hydraulics are functioning and we got the landing gear down for the 767. Coming in hot, coming in really fast. Now the 767 is coming in very heavy. It didn't drop any fuel. Let's zoom in to the engine.
Well, this just happened a couple of days after another Delta regional jet pilot was forced on Friday to make an aggressive maneuver to avoid a mid-air collision with a B-52 bomber being flown by the U.S. Air Force. The jet was coming in for a landing in Minot, North Dakota. That was on Friday, when the jet nearly collided with the massive military plane. ABC News obtained video from passengers on board who recorded the apology that the pilot made after landing safely at the airport. The pilot said, quote, "Given his speed, I don't know how fast they were going, but they were a lot faster than us. I felt it was the safest thing to do to turn behind it. So sorry about the aggressive maneuver. It caught me by surprise. This is not normal at all. I don't know why they didn't give us a heads up, because the Air Force Base does have radar. Long story short, it was not fun, but I do apologize for it, and thank you for understanding. Not a fun day at work," end quote. Slay News reports that a group of leading American scientists has uncovered evidence linking COVID mRNA, so-called vaccines, to surging reports of thyroid eye disease, or TED. It's an alarming disorder that leads to blindness. TED, well, it also causes the eyes to bulge in their sockets due to a severe swelling of the muscles. The eyes become bloodshot and crossed, causing double vision and total loss in severe cases. It causes inflammation and swelling of the eye muscles, also the eyelids, tear glands, and fatty tissues behind the eyes. Patients, they first become aware of the condition when they begin to suffer from the initial symptoms, such as bulging, dry, or watery eyes. In recent years, cases of TED have spiked, raising concern among the medical community. However, a new study has just linked the surging reports to the mass COVID vaccination campaign. The study was conducted by a team of scientists at Stanford University, led by Dr. Andrea L. Hostler. The results of the study were published in a Canadian journal. The bombshell study sheds new light on the risks posed by the COVID mRNA injections, particularly for individuals with pre-existing hyperthyroidism. The research team analyzed 373,909 patients with this hyperthyroidism and no prior TED diagnosis. Hyperthyroidism, well, it's a condition already linked to an increased risk of TED. Findings reveal that mRNA gene therapy injections significantly increases the likelihood of TED onset, of course, sparking urgent calls for further investigation and clinical vigilance. According to the study, the risk of TED onset surges dramatically after individuals are injected with an mRNA shot. We'll be right back after this short break. Hello, I'm Brandon House. Would you like to gain access to over 20 years of my radio shows, TV shows, my books? I've written 15 books, and most of those books are ebooks now, and we have conference DVDs, conferences where we filmed our conferences at the Ozarks, literally starting 20 years ago. It's all available in our archived vault. All you have to do is go to worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, and for a reasonable monthly fee, you gain access to over 20 years of Christian worldview programming, news, information, books, documentaries, and a powerful search engine. And folks, it's a great way not only to educate yourself, equip yourself, but it's a big way that you can help fund our continuation as a broadcast network. Please check it out. worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, and help us continue pushing out a Christian worldview. Welcome back from the break. Thank you as always for joining us and for remembering that we are brought to you by you. You help make all this possible as we push it out for free. Again, we could put it all behind a paywall, but we don't. We let a lot of different groups pick it up even. We're even airing on TV 30 in Milwaukee every night at 10 p.m. Central. So thank you for helping us push out free Christian worldview programming. One of the major ways you can support what we're doing is through our foundation, worldviewfoundation.com. Remember, our foundation is also our church, and we have our Sunday night church service each Sunday night, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern at worldviewtube.com. And as you know, right now, I'm teaching through the book of Revelation. We're in Revelation chapter 18 right now. And you'll find it Sunday nights, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern at worldviewtube.com. Again, all brought to you in part by our foundation, worldviewfoundation.com. So thank you for your support, worldviewfoundation.com. President Donald Trump has called for the immediate end to cashless bail, citing the rising crime rates in American cities and growing attacks on law enforcement. President Trump used his Truth Social platform to denounce the practice. In a bold move on Monday, the president argued that cashless bail has flooded streets with, quote, the worst criminals, end quote, and put the safety of police officers at risk. Here's what he wrote, quote, crime in American cities started to significantly rise when they went to cashless bail. The worst criminals are flooding our streets and endangering even our great law enforcement officers. It is a complete disaster and must be ended immediately, end quote. President Trump's remarks, they came on the heels of an escalating law enforcement crisis. Department of Homeland Secretary Kristi Noem, she held a press conference in New York City to address the issue. Noem was visiting a Customs and Border Protection officer who was shot off duty on Saturday night. And it has been revealed that the suspect responsible was a previously deported Dominican national. He has a long rap sheet. And this criminal, he'd been arrested 4 times in New York City and had an active arrest warrant in Massachusetts for armed robbery. Secretary Noem, she didn't mince words as she blasted the open border policies under former President Joe Biden and, of course, the sanctuary policies that are in major U.S. cities like New York City, Boston, Los Angeles, and Chicago. She specifically singled out Mayor Eric Adams for his leadership in New York. Noem stated, quote, "When I look at what Mayor Adams has done to New York City, it breaks my heart to see the families that have suffered because of his policies," end quote. She also took aim at the chaotic leadership in other cities, including the Mayor Michelle Wu in Boston, Mayor Karen Bass in Los Angeles, and Mayor Brandon Johnson in Chicago, all of whom are Democrats and who have allowed violent criminals to roam the streets on their watch. Just days after Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard dropped a bombshell report recommending criminal prosecution for several Obama-era officials, of course, over their role in the treasonous conspiracy tied to the 2016 election, she has now released the long classified Martin Luther King Jr. files. There's a staggering 243,496 pages of new information. The MLK Jr. files, they have been under a court-imposed seal since 1977. That's when the FBI first gathered the records and turned them over to the National Archives and Records Administration. DNI Gabbard, she made the files available at archives.gov/MLK. The newly released documents, they include internal FBI memos on leads and investigation progress. Also evidence of alleged assassination plots discussed with James Earl Ray in prison, and Canadian and CIA foreign intelligence records that were tied to Ray's international flight. There's a lot to dig through in the nearly 244,000 pages, and ex-sleuths are already searching through it, so we'll keep you updated on what they find. Zero Hedge reports that another wave of mass layoffs has hit workers and companies tied to commercial transportation, manufacturing, lumber production, distribution, and logistics all across the U.S. Over the past several weeks, there have been 4,137 job cuts that have been announced. That's according to media reports and notices required by the Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification Act. Republic National Distributing Company, that's a wholesale distributor of alcoholic beverages, they plan to close their operations across California by the end of September and slash 1,756 jobs statewide. That's according to the WARN notices and media reports. Texas-based Republic National Distributing Company, it is one of the country's largest wine and spirit wholesalers. CEO Bob Hendrickson, he cited increasing operational costs and industry headwinds as some of the reasons for the layoffs. Ohio Distributing LLC, that's a beer distribution company. They're in the process of selling off all of their assets, including facilities in Lima and Westchester, Ohio. That's according to state filings. The sale of the business will result in 124 jobs being cut at the 2 facilities, including 39 truck drivers. The sale is expected to be finalized by September 8th. Cold storage provider, America Cold Logistics, they're laying off 110 employees from a facility in Atlanta, citing low volumes. And then there's Lightspeed Logistics Miami, LLC. They're going to eliminate 110 delivery driver positions and close its same-day delivery services in Florida. That's going to happen by August 17th, but no reason was given. Auto parts distributor CarParts.com. is closing its location in Chesapeake, Virginia, and laying off 104 workers. That's according to state filings. The company did not provide a reason for the facility's closure and job reductions. And then there's the supply chain solutions provider, Macmillan Piper. They're laying off 92 employees in Seattle and Tacoma, Washington. The company said the layoffs were a result of a, quote, sudden and unforeseeable business circumstances resulting from the loss of operational funding, end quote. Well, folks, the list goes on and on. These are just a few of the recent examples of layoffs in this sector. Well, now it's time for our nightly Worldview Report commentary. According to persecution.org, in the middle of the night on May 17th, two predominantly Christian villages in the Democratic Republic of the Congo were shaken by coordinated attacks that left dozens dead and more wounded. Despite the constant talk about Muslims being persecuted, the reality is that the Islamists are the ones persecuting Christians throughout the Middle East and Africa. The attacks, they were carried out by a group known as Allied Democratic Forces. That's according to Islamic expert Robert Spencer. According to a local official, at least 6 civilians were killed during an overnight raid by suspected ADF Islamic militants. They were said to have been brutally murdered with edge weapons and gunshots. The Islamists, well, they also set fire to 4 homes. This brutal attack was hardly the first such anti-Christian Islamic attack in Congo. We previously reported right here on the Worldview Report back in February that ADF militants abducted 70 Christians from the village of Meba, and they marched them to a church in nearby Kanzaga. And there, the believers were bound and slashed to death with machetes. This is, of course, the tragic reality for Christians and other religious minorities in many Muslim countries. Right now, as we know, Christians are under attack in Syria, thanks to a U.S. and Western foreign policy move that fomented the overthrow of the Assad regime. Syrian districts with significant Christian populations, well, they have experienced a rise in violence during the month here of July 2025. And that includes a notable attack on the Melkite Greek Catholic Church of St. Michael in Al-Sura. It's a village in the Suwada region. In fact, a local source told Aid to the Church in Need, quote, "This community has lost everything. They had very little to begin with. They were already among the poorest in the region. And now they have nothing," end quote. LifeSite News reports that St. Michael Church, it was set ablaze by unknown perpetrators on July 15th, with the full extent of the damage still being unknown. In the same act of arson, 38 homes belonging to Christian families were destroyed, leading to the, well, displacement of 70 Christians. They ended up taking shelter in a church nearby in Shaba. And another incident of terrorism. There was a plot to bomb the Marite church of Mar Elise. That's in Tartus. Thankfully, that was foiled by local security forces. And then on July 13th, Islamic terrorists, they parked a car that was filled with explosives beside the church, only to be captured in an ambush by the authorities shortly thereafter, thankfully. But you see, both these incidents occurred within a month of the suicide bombing at the Orthodox Church of St. Elise in Damascus. That June 22nd attack, that took place during a church service in the predominantly Christian village that ended up killing 30 people and injuring 54. So, as persecution.org makes clear, this pattern of terror, it's aimed at forcefully displacing and breaking the spirit of Christians. Local churches, well, they are rallying to the support of their brethren, and they are rebuilding their homes and their churches. But sadly, these massacres, they are mostly ignored by the corporate media here in America and in Western countries. You know why? Because it does not fit their narrative. Islam, they want you to think it's a peaceful religion and everybody can coexist. Well, we know that's a lie here. So we don't ignore these reports. We highlight them. And we call on you to join us in praying for the persecuted church in the Middle East and around the world. Because sadly, I believe this is coming to America. In many ways, it already has. It just goes again unreported. We've had far too many jihadi attacks here in America. They just get reported in different ways. So the church in America, as is the church around the world, is not going to be immune to this growing persecution. Pray for the persecuted church tonight. That does it for this edition of the Worldview Report. As always, thank you for tuning in and for supporting our broadcast. WorldviewFoundation.com. WorldviewFoundation.com. Until next time, I'm Brandon House. May God save America. Take care.